In our last session, we read a letter from a woman whose husband recently killed himself, and she wondered about her role in his death and what she could have done to prevent it. I suggested that depression and suicide have causes that are related to both genetics and to the lack of real love, and that at the time, she didn't understand either cause. Now, back to the writer of the letter. It is very likely that your husband felt unloved. I've spoken with many people now who have felt suicidal, and all of them feel unloved. But in every case, they have felt unloved for a lifetime, beginning from childhood. And the cause of their emptiness began in childhood from the time they felt unloved by their parents. Many people have a tendency to blow off the effects of childhood, saying utterly ridiculous things like, "Oh, childhood was a long time ago. We need to just grow up and get over it." Let me tell you, childhood was a more impressionable time than I can possibly describe. It's when we learned how the world was. It's when we were open to learning the definition of how the world would be for the rest of our lives. So, when people we trusted came along and taught us, not with words, but with their behavior, that the world was a harsh, angry, hateful place, and that we were worthless, stupid, and pathetic creatures who had to earn every morsel of imitation love we would ever get for the rest of our lives, we believed them. And we continued to believe them forever. That is how powerful childhood is. I'm not exaggerating one bit. Once that impression is imprinted on us by a powerful set of adults, notably our parents, it takes quite a change in experiences for us as adults to change those lessons. Your husband was somehow taught that he was worthless. He was taught that he was not lovable, and he believed it. It's also very likely that he was given the gift of clinical depression in his genes, and there was nothing you could do about that. Had you been a trained healthcare professional, you might have been able to get him on the appropriate medications to help save his life. But you did not know enough to do that. So get over thinking that you should have done that. You just didn't know enough to do that. So his lack of real love stemmed from childhood. He came to your relationship severely damaged already. If you had been perfectly loving, maybe you could have helped him, but you didn't get enough real love in your life either. And for that reason, you couldn't have helped him. Who could? You have to quit feeling responsible for what you could not have done. Because you weren't perfectly loving, I'm sure that at times you actually added to the stress in his life. But that's only natural. Who wouldn't have? Do not blame yourself for his suicide. His depression had many causes: brain chemistry, stress, his childhood, and other causes that may never be known. And you should be aware that you only made some small contribution to his unhappiness on some occasions. On the other hand, you probably provided much of his sense of connection and affection too. You are not to blame for your husband's death, nor is he to blame for leaving you and causing your present unhappiness. He simply couldn't take his pain any longer, and will never know all the reasons for that. For a time, grieving his death is natural. If you continue to torture yourself with questions and blame, however, you'll just ruin the rest of your life. You need to concentrate now on finding all the real love you can. Meet with friends and talk not only about your sorrow and pain, but talk about the mistakes that you've made as a wife, mother, and human being. As you do that, you'll be creating opportunities to feel loved unconditionally, and you'll grow in your ability to love others. Forgive your husband's family for their anger toward you and learn to love them. It's real love that will heal you and bring you the happiness that you really want.